Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to grow your wealth. I'm your host, Brett Swartz, and each episode I am joined by some of the best real estate, financial, and wealth minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited about our next guest. She's out of the great state of New York. She's in the Buffalo area, and she lives near. She lives on a dairy farm with her husband and three boys, and she's the co-host of the Real Estate Rookie podcast. She helps newbies figure out actionable steps to get their first deal. And she was a beginner not too long ago, and she uses her experience to guide rookies. And she has a dual degree in finance and public accounting, and recently became a licensed insurance agent. She purchased her first rental property in 2014, and since has grown her to buy and hold portfolio of over 30 units or 230 units. She has experience in residential and commercial properties, and she accredits much of her success to the use of partners on several real estate deals and creative financing, and so much more. We're going to cover that in the full episode. This is our initial teaser episode. We're just going to touch on one of the biggest frustrations that Ashley has had with one of her clients as it pertains to capital gains tax deferral. Please welcome to the show, Ashley Kehr. Hey, Ashley, how you doing?
Good. How are you? Thank you for having
I'm
me.
I'm well. Thank you. Yeah, thank you for being here. So let's start out, give a little bit more about your story for our listeners, and then your current focus.
Okay. So I graduated college. I started working as an accountant, and I lasted about 6 months full time and quit in the middle of tax season. It just was not for me sitting at a desk all day. So I decided I was going to have a baby and be a stay at home mom. I was approached by an investor about a month of me being unemployed and asked if I wanted to manage an apartment complex for him. Just part time. He just needed someone, and I grew up with his daughter, so he knew me well. And I said, okay. Well, that grew into a full time job. I started managing. By the time I ended, it was probably 110 units, just his, and then I was managing my own. So that's how I kind of got into real estate investing, was working for someone who did it, learning everything, and then I started buying my own properties. So
Absolutely.
I still manage his money and do a little bit of work for him, but definitely learned a lot.
I love that. I can't wait to dive in from the full-time management into investor, which I think is a great order to go in. But before we go there, would you just cover, before we go there in the full episode, would you cover for this episode, what's the biggest frustration? Maybe it was a client or the gentleman you're helping out when it comes to capital gains tax deferral. What are some of the struggles or frustrations you've had they've had with that?
Yeah, I personally have not done a 1031 exchange yet, but I have for the investor I worked for, I was the person that handled it for him. And so one struggle that we had was when he sold a large apartment complex, and then it comes time to, you got to hit the deadlines, the dates, and make sure you have identified your property, you have your property under contract, and then you purchase your property. Well, we ran into an issue where he didn't have enough time to find the properties he wanted, and he lost out and had to pay tax on his money. And then it kind of happened again when he sold another apartment complex. He didn't identify the property in time, and he had to leave that money on the table even though he was still purchasing a property. So we did work with a 1031 exchange broker the whole time, and it was more, I would say, on the investor I worked for, on his side of things, not getting everything in order. But it was definitely a huge lesson learned as to what actually goes into a 1031 exchange, and it really is a frustrating making sure you hit all those deadlines, but it can be a great advantage.
Yeah, really well said. We call it the shotgun 1031 wedding, right? So you
Yeah.
get engaged within 45 days and you have to get married
Right.
within 180. And sometimes, when you're under that time crunch, things don't work out so well for that marriage. and or just the equal or greater value part of it, right? Where you might you might sell a $5 million deal and find the perfect $3 million deal, and you could buy that three, but then you have two extra in boot left over. You have to go buy something else, and so now you're chasing those two things, which can be a big challenge. For those who want a backup plan for a failed 1031 exchange, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com and you can learn about the Deferred Sales Trust and how we just saved a $7.6 million deal in Georgia, multifamily units, for a gentleman to save his 1031 and save 1.1 million in tax. With that being said, though, Ashley, let's for those who want to get in touch with you right now, what's the best place for them to connect with you?
They can connect with me on BiggerPockets. You can search the Real Estate Rookie podcast by BiggerPockets, and then also on Instagram at Wealth from Rentals.
Excellent. And then look for the full episode to drop here shortly on iTunes and all the major platforms on Ashley's full story of basically accountant to management to a real estate investor, and of course her cool podcast as well. What's the name of the podcast one more time,
Real
Ashley?
Estate Rookie. It's a
Perfect.
BiggerPockets podcast.
Excellent.